Hi guys, welcome to Hobbit Hole Books. My name is Matt, also known as Miggins, and I'm going to be your host here on the channel. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer, and if this is your first time, you are very, very welcome here. I appreciate every single viewer. I've just been blown away by the support that's been given to me already. Never in a million years would I have thought that I would have over 50 subscribers just over a week in. It's just, honestly, the support has just really touched me, and I'm really glad to be here, putting myself out here when I didn't think that anybody would listen to my crazy ramblings. So please, if you like this stuff, like and subscribe, and also comment down below. I will always do my best to respond to any and all comments. I'm also very active on Twitter, and I really want to kind of give back to the community as a thanks for being so supportive of me, and thank you so much. You know, I kind of got myself in a little bit of a bind over on Twitter where I said if I reach 1.5k subscribers that I'm going to read Twilight, which the joke is that it's kind of a booktuber initiation ritual that you end up reading Twilight when you get to so many subscribers. And I thought in a million years I'd never get there, but now after this week I still don't think I'll get there, but it's looking slightly less remote as a possibility than it was before. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'm so excited to have you here and make content for you guys. Today I'm going to be talking with you guys about the Silent Gods series by Justin T. Cool. Now, Justin is an awesome guy and an absolutely fantastic author, and quite honestly, this series has just blown me away. It has absolutely blown me away. You know, I'm kind of in fantasy. I'm kind of versed in the Cosmere. I've read all of that. I've read the first 6 books of Wheel of Time, and I've read a couple other books here and there. But this is really one of my first kind of forays into a different series outside of Wheel of Time and Cosmere. And my hype levels were like up here, and I was worried that the book wouldn't live up to the hype. But I read it, and honestly, my hype was not enough. You know, this book won't be for everyone, and I'll go into that further down this video. But for me, as a epic, chunky, big, world-building fan of epic, insanely large scope fantasy, this was my jam. And if you like that too, this is going to be your bread and butter. You're going to love this, and I cannot shout about it enough. So to start off, I'm going to read a little extract from my Master of Sorrows review and my Master Artificer reviews. It will be spoiler free, and these were from my Too Long Didn't Read, which were at the start of my Goodreads reviews, and it will just give you a little flavour for what my thoughts were before I go a little bit more in depth about the series and what I liked about it and why I think you should read it, and we'll go from there. This is Master of Sorrows. I said it was an exhilaratingly engrossing debut entry into the world of Luquatra, perfectly matching the epic grand scale of fantasy I've always longed to find with mythological levels of world building. Justin Cool manages all this whilst keeping the book mostly contained within a single setting, introducing us to an eclectic cast of characters, the pace pounding us along until an extraordinary finale chock full of revelations. Whilst on occasion I felt the characterization could be a tiny bit inconsistent at the end as things sped up, this is nitpicking, and I can't emphasize it enough. It really was nitpicking for a book of biblical proportions, and it certainly lived up to the hype for me. I gave it a 4.85 out of 5. And then for Master Artificer, I said, Master Artificer is an epic in the greatest sense of the word. A grim, dark turn, still stuffed full of heart. The scale of world building has exponentially increased since Master of Sorrows, and as such, this is a chonker. Justin takes his time crafting the world, the focus mostly on moving chess pieces for the future, whilst never detracting from the present. Justin knows just when to get the pace racing again. Several character arcs taking unexpected turns, and the ending has satisfying resolutions with a very clear indication that things are about to get real crazy. I'm very excited for the next book. It's not exactly a cliffhanger, but also things are really set up to kick off. I said this is definitely one for the world building fans. So if hard magic systems and intricate world building isn't your thing, this may not be for you, But for myself, it was an exquisite delicacy. Wow. 5 stars to the max. What else can I say? That's if that's the only thing you take from this video, that's basically encapsulates everything I have to say about this series. It's a mix of epic classic fantasy with the big scale world building, which just keeps expanding and expanding, and there's in Master Artificer it turns a little bit more grimdark, but still keeping that really heart, that emotion at the core of it, and that's what it does so well. I like this term that's been going around a little bit that's called Grimheart, which I feel is kind of where the fantasy genre is sort of heading next. I might be wrong about that, but I've read a couple books that I would define as Grimheart, where it's grimdark and there's kind of lots of grim things in it. Sometimes it's violence and other, you know what I mean when I say grimdark, even though nobody can agree on what grimdark actually is. But it still has that heart, it still has that light, that soul right at the center of it. And for me, I really like that. You know, I've got nothing against a really dark and kind of soul-crushing book that there's not much kind of like redemption, not much light in there. But for me personally, I think the ones that kind of mix that with the light, they're kind of the best, and this is one of them. So I'll start off by just saying a little bit about both books, and it is meant to be read kind of as a bigger piece of a whole. As I said this in my Master Artificer review, these aren't really kind of separate books. Master of Sorrows is fairly standalone. If you want to stop at that point, you can stop there, and you would have had a satisfying enough story with some resolutions that are still hanging, and you'd probably want to read on. But if you found it wasn't your thing, there was an enjoyable kind of story there, and it's a lot more kind of standalone than Master Artificer is. Whereas the second book, Master Artificer, I'm going to keep saying this, is very much kind of that part of a whole. It's not like a kind of sequel that kind of stands on its own. It's very much part of the bigger story. I talk about it as weaving a web. That's what Justin has done here. And so I know that some people, it hasn't entirely clicked with them because it requires a lot of investment, and it requires an understanding going in that this isn't something that's going to have necessarily a start, a beginning, and an end that satisfies everyone, because it's not an end, it's a continuation of a story. And you can tell that Justin has it all kind of planned out, and he's crafting all these different layers, and that you're going to come back and read later and you're going to be like, whoa, my mind is blown. And as such, it does, like I say, require a lot of investment. It's very much a setup book, a middle book. So I guess in some senses, some people would say it has a little bit of middle book syndrome. But for me personally, I didn't find that. It is an absolutely immense level of world building, but I loved that. It's not for everyone, and I can definitely see why some reviewers found it difficult to get through, because it is very much a lot of setup. But that doesn't mean that there's not a plot to the book, there's not arcs in the book. The characters are all brilliant, they all grow and change throughout the book, and we're definitely a lot closer to where Justin is kind of pointing us towards with the series at the end of Master Artificer than at the beginning. Let me just talk about that a little bit, the direction of the series, which is it's a series that turns tropes on its heads. It takes the hero, prophesied hero kind of trope, the young farm boy trope, and it kind of turns it on its head, so that Anev, who is the main protagonist in both books and the main protagonist of the series as a whole, or at least the first 4 books, I believe is going to be a quadrilogy. He's prophesied to be the Dark Lord, basically, the reincarnation. At the beginning of Master of Sorrows, he is just a completely sweet, innocent kind of little kid, teen that's just growing up, and it really is that kind of coming of age story to start with, and you sort of think, how is he going to turn into like the Dark Lord? This guy is just so sweet and naive, and you know, it really doesn't seem that. But let me tell you, by the end of Master Artificer, what these characters have gone through, boy, Justin likes to put them through the dregs, and you can definitely tell that, okay, we're now a lot closer to Dark Lord than we were at the start of Master of Sorrows. Speaking of Anev, let's talk about the characters. So as I said, the main protagonist is Anev. He's called Anev to Breath, and I think he's about 14 in the first book, maybe. And he lives in this little village called Chamberlain. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce it, but we're going with that. And it's like this magical village that basically nobody can come in. There's a barrier where it stops people finding it. It's kind of hidden. All the young boys that live there, they go to what they call the academy, which is kind of like a school of magic. So in that sense, it's got kind of like the farm boy trope, the chosen one trope, and the school of magic trope, but Justin really manages to bring his own unique spin on it. It's not like Hogwarts at all, really. I'm comparing it, but it's very unique and very different. And essentially, the young boys are trained there to go and become, what do you call them, like masters of the academy, where they go out and seek magic artifacts. The academy basically like hates magic and thinks it's like evil and like heretical, and they want to kind of destroy all magic. So they're trained to be up kind of like assassin treasure hunters to go out of the village and take magical artifacts out of the world and try and keep magic down. And they keep all these magic artifacts in the vault beneath the academy. And then you have the girls who the academy are what they call wit women, which basically they're trained up to, I don't want to spoil too much. So basically they're kind of trained to be midwives, and there's more to it than that, but I think to say any more would kind of be a spoiler. So let's just say that, yeah, they're kind of trained to be midwives, and they look after the young babies and children that come in to the village that then grow up to go to the academy. And that's kind of like the basic setting. Anev lives outside the academy in the village itself, and he lives with this guy called Sodar, who's one of the local priests of the religion there. And Sodar is one of my favourite characters in all fantasy. He is a brilliantly written character, and characterization is one of Justin's main strengths, and you really feel a connection to these characters. Justin takes his time, right? And so some people say Master of Stories, it takes time getting into, and I didn't personally find that, because generally I like setup. I like to know about a world. I don't mind when it takes a little bit longer to get into it, but I know plenty of others have said that it did kind of take a little to get going, whereas I relish that. But yeah, Sodar is one of my favourite characters in fantasy, and Justin is just great at drawing these characters and really connecting you to them. And he's kind of like the mentor figure for Anev, and he teaches Anev magic. And the thing about Anev is essentially that in this world they believe that you're cursed by like the evil god who's known as Chaos, the fallen god, and if you're disabled, you are cursed by this evil god. And Anev, he only has one arm, and so Sodar has taken him in and given him sort of this one of the magic artifacts that he's stolen from the vault, which basically allows him to have a hand that appears, like to replace his lost hand, so he doesn't have a stump, so nobody knows that he's disabled, because otherwise they basically murder him, right? They're that kind of fanatic. And along the way, Anev has lots of different friends and also enemies, or who sort of are frenemies in the academy. It's very competitive. There's only sort of a few people that can make it through, and so we get to know this cast of characters. There's Titus and Theron, who are Anev's friends, and they're really, you can feel the brotherhood between them all in this. And Kenton and Finn are great characters. They're kind of mini antagonists in Master of Sorrows, but in Master Artificer they definitely grow, and their stories go in places I really did not expect. And you also have Anev's love interest, Maijin. She's another one of the major characters, and she's an interesting one. She's probably my least favourite character. Her dad runs the academy, and so she's very fanatic as well. And so if she knew Anev was disabled, it would kind of ruin his chances with her, because she's really prejudiced. And that's one of the great things about this series, or at least the first book. It really deals with kind of like the prejudice and bigotry, and it doesn't condone it. It calls it out, and it sees it as wrong, and really kind of hat off to Justin for that. You know, you don't often see disability rep in fantasy, and I'd like to see more of it, and it's great to see it here. And Master of Swords as a whole kind of clips along in the Academy. It takes place over 5 days, which is really interesting because I've never read a book that's sort of, I think it's about 500 pages, that it takes place in that time period, but in such a long book. And it really makes me excited for Stormlight Archive 5, which supposedly will take place over 10 days, and it's probably about double the length of Master of Sorrows. And it really shows that it's possible that authors can do this, and it's a testament to the skill of Mr. Cool that he manages to pull this off. And for me, it was a page turner. I never felt bored. One of the fantastic things again is the world building in Master of Sorrows. Particularly, Justin includes at the beginning of each part a little like snippet, a little, I want to say epigraph, but it's not an epigraph. It is a proper kind of 3 or 4 page snippet from the lore and mythology of the world, exploring the gods and the history of the gods. And that just blew me away. It's written in a quasi-biblical sort of fashion with a little bit more flowery language than the usual prose, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that. And it does continue in Master Artificer, although it kind of expands on that a little bit to become kind of different letters from different characters and different things, and less so the kind of excerpts of mythology. But I still really enjoyed it in there, and it's one of the fantastic things. And I know Justin has said actually that he thought about putting them all at the beginning in one section, but no, I really enjoyed. I think it was a great decision to put it at the beginning of each section, because it had me like trying to get to the end of each section because I wanted to read the next part of the mythology. It just astounded me, and the way it's woven in as well. Like, there's one part where it kind of ends with one of the characters reading from it, and then you turn the page and it's the excerpt, and then it goes back into it, and it's also intricately connected, and it's just blows my mind how someone could do this. I wish I had the skill to kind of do that and hold that in my head. By the time I was reading Master Artificer, I started making notes, and I had 12 pages of word notes, and I actually stopped making them about a quarter in to Master Artificer. It was taking so much time, and by that point I kind of got a better grasp of it and had enough. But like this is a significant investment. But don't let that scare you. You don't need to remember everything, right? I put a thread on Twitter. I'll link the thread down below, where I basically say set your expectations for this. You know, don't go into it afraid, thinking that you're going to need to remember everything. Justin will point out what you need to remember. He's not going to hold your hand, but he's not going to be a Steven Erikson, which is, I haven't read much of Gardens of the Moon before, and Malazan as a whole, but I know that it drops you in at the deep end. It's not quite that level, and Justin does make sure to know that the key information is repeated, and you shouldn't get lost as long as you pick up kind of some of the basics and just go into it, kind of letting it wash over you and enjoy the depth to it, the richness to it. In Master Artificer, the tone does change, so Master of Swords is kind of that classic epic fantasy. Towards the end, it does take on a little bit of a grim tone, but Master Artificer is the real first step into the grim dark. And let me tell you, I'm not squeamish, but there were some sequences that I was kind of like shuddered a little bit. It didn't bother me. It was kind of a glee almost. Not that I'm condoning any of it. You know, this was my first real kind of foray into grimdark, and I was intrigued to see what kind of aspects grimdark can have. And like I say, I was squeamish at points, but it's never gratuitous, is what I'm trying to say. So if you like a little bit of dark with a little bit of heart, this will be for you. I'll just speak about the magic systems last of all, before I kind of do a wrap up of why you should read. The magic system is very intricate, very intricate. To be honest, I don't really completely understand all of it. Justin really, thankfully, in Master Artificer, he puts a thing at the back of the book, and sort of like an appendices where you can flip to have some charts and stuff that explain the magic system a little bit. And my goodness, did I need them. In Master of Swords, the magic system's not really there. It kind of, the scope is contained, and you get the big world building in the mythological excerpts, but other than that, until the end, it's relatively contained. And then Artificer, the second book, explodes in scope, and the magic because of that small scope in book one, there's a lot to get through that needs to be explained. And like I say, it does explode in scope, but you don't, like I say, you don't need to remember everything. And if you like hard magic systems, this will be for you. There's something like 230 different combinations that you could do. I don't know how you work out the math for that, but yeah. But don't be intimidated by it. I really don't understand most of the magic systems I read, but I did enjoy it. There's some really cool applications of it with kind of like bubbles of air, and there's so many different things, and each one is kind of, there's different powers associated with different gods and different minor gods, and yeah, just it's best just to read it. But if you like hard magic systems in the style of Sanderson, so a Sandersonian kind of vibe, then this will be for you. So before I go, I'll just wrap up why you should read. If you like big epic world building, this is for you. It is on a biblical scale world building, and I'm so excited to see what comes of the series in the future. If you like really fantastic characterization that really tugs at the heartstrings, connects to you, this will be the book for you. I'm hard to make cry. The first book that made me cry was Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, but I will say in both books I did cry. And it's amazing the ability to make you even care about some of the villains. Like, I cried at some of the villain stuff, even though I still hated them. And that's a real skill that Justin has, to make you have that ability to hate a character for who they are as a person, but also feel for them and hold those two in balance. It's just, honestly, it's incredible. And if you like grimdark, but you don't want it too dark, so kind of a grim heart level, this will be for you. I don't know what else I can say, guys. Massive world building, epic scope, the characterization is just incredible. It's just completely raised my expectations for every other series going. I really hope that you guys pick it up, at least try the first book, Martial Stories. It may be for you, it may not be, and that's okay. We all like different things, but if you like Martial Stories, you are guaranteed to love Master Artificer. But just take its time, don't feel the pressure, and just enjoy feeling the richness and immersing yourself in the world. Okay, well, that's all from me, guys. If you like the content that I put out, please like, subscribe, comment down below. I really love interacting with you all, and it really helps the channel to get a like and subscribe. I'm so excited to bring you more content as time goes on. If you also want to support the channel, I've put my Amazon wishlist down below. Please feel free to go check it out to see where my TBR is going. That's down below. There's links to all my other socials, my Goodreads, my Twitter, where I'm mostly there, my Discords, that I don't have a personal Discord, but Discords that I'm a part of and think that is worthy of joining. The communities there. I'll also link down Justin T. Cool on Twitter. He's an awesome guy, and he really loves interacting with fans, and he's really genuine and kind, and takes the time to respond. And he's one of the many fantastic authors out there on book Twitter. And I'll see you next time, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.